So I'm just gonna get into my first semester experience and how that was overall, and then I'm gonna talk about my second semester, of course. So my first semester, I started out taking 5 classes. The classes I was taking was an art class. I think it was like art history. I'm not exactly sure of the name for the class, but it was an art history class. I was taking American Government, a math support class. I think it was 0988. Spoken communications, which is basically a speech class where you like stand up in front of others and do speeches. We also did have like group projects. We had a lot of group projects in that class actually. And my last class was my university foundations class. That class is basically a class that every freshman at every college and university has to take. In that class was 1 credit, and then everything else was 3 credits, but my math support was 4. So those were the classes that I initially started taking my first semester of college. But after a while, a few weeks in, I decided to drop my art class just because it wasn't anything that I thought it was going to be initially. That class was actually very, very boring for me, and I knew that I would not be able to pass with the grade that I wanted. Considering the fact that nobody really liked that class. People would actually be falling asleep. He was boring. I'm just gonna be honest. He was boring, and I mean, I don't need a class with like a whole bunch of excitement, but the way he would just teach the art and just show us on the screens and stuff, it would just be very uninteresting to me. So I knew that I had to drop the class. So 4 of those classes that I took, out of the 5, they were Tuesday and Thursday classes, and then my university and foundations class, that was on a Wednesday, and that was from 11 to 11:50, I believe, so only about 50 minutes. And sometimes, I know on the first day he did let us out like half an hour early, so overall experiences with those classes were pretty okay. I'm not going to speak on my grades for first semester just because they were honestly horrible, and I knew that it would be even more horrible if I would have kept that art class. So, but I will speak on my second semester grades, even though one of them was super, super bad, but I'm still going to speak on it just because I want to be honest with you guys and just show that not everybody's going to make it out with a 4.0 in their freshman year or even sophomore. So that first semester was okay, and now I'm going to start jumping into second semester because I have more to talk about within my second semester class. Oh, and by the way, all of my classes in first semester, they were like physical classes that I actually had to walk into. But my second semester, I actually opted to choose 2 online courses, and I think that really, really helped me just because I was able to do the work at my own pace, and they were like kind of stress-free in a kind of way, but I'm going to talk about that more right now actually. So for second semester, I took 4 classes. One of my classes actually had another class, which was a support class, but honestly, I never really went to that class just because that class, I felt like I would be better off going to the actual class where we're learning, because in that class, she would just go over like homework and things like that if we had any questions, because everyone that was in that little support class was in her regular class. In that class, if I didn't mention it already, it was called Math 1101. Something like that. Something 1101, but it was a math course. So yeah, that class, yeah, my grade was not the best. I actually ended up with a D in that class just because I did mess up on my final and I didn't get the best grade possible, but yeah. I thought I was going to end up with a C just because math honestly is not my best subject, so A C was what I thought I was going to get, but when I did the final, it brought me down to a D. So I'm probably going to take that class over and try to see if I can get a C or a B. I would rather, of course, get a B, but if not, then a C is better than anything because that D looks so horrible on my transcript. So that's enough about the math class. That was, of course, a physical class that I had to walk into every day that we had class. And the other class that I had to physically go into was my English 1101 class. I actually chose my professor just because my friend had her last semester for English 1101 also. And she said that she was a good teacher, but she was strict. And I definitely, on that first assignment, found out how strict that she was with her grading. My first essay that we had to do, I made a not so great grade. And that honestly lowered my confidence with that class just because English has always been my best class. I usually always get the high score out of any of my grades in English, like an A or a high B. Just because to me English is like very, very easy, and writing and stuff just comes naturally. But when she gave me my grade back and wrote her little comments, it did kind of make me upset. I'm like, wow, I must not be as great of a writer that I thought I was. So yeah, that grade really kind of discouraged me, but then, you know, I had to get over it. I mean, it was one assignment. But as time did go on in that English 1101 class, I did start to make better grades, and I actually ended up leaving her class with a B. I'm not sure if it was a high B or a low B, but all I know is I ended up with a B. And because of that low grade that I got from my first assignment, I did end up getting a C on my midterm, but luckily I didn't end up with a C in the class, and I brought that up to a B. So I'm happy about that. My last two classes that I took, they were online courses. Someone actually suggested I take online courses last semester just because they would be less time consuming in a way, and that I can basically do my work at my own pace, which is true. Of course, you still have deadlines and tests and finals and all of that, but definitely with my other classes, if I had these two classes in person too, I probably wouldn't really have much time to like study and do my assignments and make the best grades possible. So my courses that I did take online was a history class. I'm not sure of the exact name for it. And I also took a psychology course. Oh, and one more thing. If you didn't know, I was in a program last summer where I took 2 college classes and I received 6 credits. So I already had 6 credits going into my freshman year. And when I just finished this last semester, I actually have 25 credits. So yeah, and I did have an A and a B in those 2 classes that I took last summer. I made a video, but I think I like put it on private.